A suspect is under arrest in connection with the tragic death of 10-year-old Lily Peters, who disappeared while riding her bike home from her aunt's. And what's truly disturbing is the cops say the suspect accused of strangling Lily is another kid who's just 14 years old. Stephen Fabian with the latest on a case that has shocked the country.
April 24th, 2022. It was around 9 p.m. in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, when a father picked up his phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. His 10-year-old daughter, Lily Peters, hadn't come home. She was supposed to ride her bike from her aunt's house just 400 meters away. It should have taken her no more than 3 minutes, but hours had passed, and as the clock ticked past midnight, panic turned into terror. By the next morning, police would find Lily's small body hidden in the thick overgrowth of a local park, beaten, strangled, and assaulted. This single discovery broke something inside the small town of Chippewa Falls. Even the most hardened detectives couldn't hold back their emotions. The violence of the attack was shocking, but something about the crime scene felt off. The injuries on Lily's body showed rage and confusion rather than control. The blows were wild, desperate, not the work of a calculating predator. And yet, evidence was scattered everywhere. Fingerprints, fibers, DNA. Whoever did this hadn't tried to hide. To the investigators, it felt like they were looking at two people, one brutal and one careless. But soon, they would learn the truth. The killer was neither a monster hiding in the shadows, nor a grown man from a neighboring town. It was a child, a boy. A boy who would stand among the mourners at Lily's vigil, hugging her parents, smiling, pretending to grieve. But before anyone could begin to process that horror, more battles began, in the courts, in the media, and inside the hearts of Lily's family. While her parents tried to survive the unbearable loss, lawyers debated over the killer's rights. Appeals, hearings, and endless paperwork followed. For Lily's family, time stopped on April 24th, 2022, the day their world ended. She was just 10 years old. Before we continue, if this is your first time here, welcome. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Feel free to share in the comments. And to our amazing community, especially those of you who return week after week to seek justice and raise awareness, you are the reason this channel exists. Every share, every comment, every like is a voice for the voiceless. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. If you believe these stories deserve to be told, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because every case we cover is a chance to remember, to reflect, and to honor lives gone too soon. Lily Peters was born on November 4th, 2011, in Chippewa Falls, a quiet town in Wisconsin. Her parents divorced when she was still little, and Lily lived mostly with her father. But her mother stayed close, visiting often, taking part in her life every chance she could. Everyone who knew Lily described her as bright, cheerful, and full of energy. She loved riding her purple bike, playing outside, and exploring with her friends. She wasn't afraid of getting muddy or climbing too high. Her town was small, safe, and friendly, the kind of place where parents still trusted the streets and neighbors waved as you passed. So sometimes her dad let her ride around by herself, especially when she went to see her aunt, who lived just a few houses away. That Sunday afternoon, Lily asked if she could visit her aunt again. Her dad said yes. She left the house around 3 p.m., pedaling away on her bike, smiling, carefree, just another spring day. But when the sun began to set, something felt wrong. Lily hadn't come home. Her father called his sister, hoping Lily was still there, but her aunt told him Lily had already left, over an hour ago. That's when panic hit. He began calling everyone he could think of. Lily's friends, their parents, the neighbors. No one had seen her. Soon, family members joined in, spreading out across the neighborhood with flashlights, calling her name into the growing darkness. They searched the sidewalks, the alleys, the empty yards. Every corner of the small town echoed with the same desperate sound. Lily. As the night deepened and fear took over, her father made the hardest decision of his life. At 9 p.m. he called the police. Officers responded quickly, and soon the search became massive. Police cars circled the area. Volunteers poured out of their homes with flashlights and jackets, determined to help. Lily's father begged them to issue an Amber Alert, the emergency message used when a child is believed to be in danger. But the police refused. They said Lily's disappearance didn't meet the criteria. They needed proof she had been taken. The father tried to argue, his voice breaking, but rules were rules. The search went on without the alert. That night, the town didn't sleep. Dozens of people scoured the streets and the woods, calling out for Lily. Some walked along the riverside, others checked the backyards and trails near the park. But as dawn approached, hope began to fade. Then, around 6 a.m., officers made a grim discovery. In a patch of bushes near a quiet footpath inside a small park, they found Lily's bike, hidden under the leaves. Her father's heart broke. It was no longer a missing persons case. Something terrible had happened. The place where the bike was found raised questions. Normally, Lily rode home along the busy road, where cars and people were always around. But the park trail, the one where her bike was found, was shorter, quieter, and surrounded by thick trees. Why would Lily go that way? She never did before. No one could understand, but deep down, everyone feared the same answer, that someone lured her there. As the morning sun rose, police expanded the search. K-9 units arrived with trained dogs. Drones buzzed overhead. Officers knocked on doors, asking residents if they'd seen or heard anything strange. By now, the entire town was awake, frozen in fear. Parents clutched their children tighter, people locked their doors, and every few minutes, the question echoed through the streets, "Where is Lily?" Hours passed. Then just after 9 a.m., a police officer stopped in his tracks. Inside the same park, not far from where the bike was hidden, they found her. Lily's small body lay deep in the undergrowth, covered with branches and leaves, as if someone had tried to hide her. Even in daylight, she was hard to see. When the officers saw her, they knew this wasn't an accident. This was murder. Veteran detectives who had seen the worst kinds of crime stood in silence. Some cried, others clenched their fists. The little town of Chippewa Falls would never be the same again. Police quickly sealed off the area. Forensic teams began working the scene, collecting every piece of evidence they could. The FBI joined the case. The goal was clear: find whoever did this, and fast. Officers went door to door again, interviewing anyone who might have seen Lily that day. Parents were warned to keep their children close. Schools were put under strict supervision. Messages went out across town: no child should walk alone. The news spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Within hours, everyone in Chippewa Falls knew that a little girl had been brutally murdered in their own backyard. People were terrified, angry, heartbroken. The thought that some monster was walking free among them was unbearable. And for the police, the pressure was growing by the hour. They had to find Lily's killer before he struck again. The town of Chippewa Falls was no longer the same. Fear had wrapped around every street, every front yard, every parent's heart. Police were flooded with calls from worried residents. People reported anything that seemed strange: a car parked too long, a stranger walking near the park, even noises in the night. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone was terrified. Detectives worked non-stop. They looked into every person in town with a criminal record, especially those who had ever hurt a child. But the deeper they searched, the stranger it all became. Rumors began to spread like wildfire. Some said Lily fell off her bike and drowned in the river. Others whispered about a mysterious stranger seen in the park. A few even accused the neighbors. Every story was worse than the one before. The truth was, no one felt safe anymore. Parents refused to let their kids out of sight. Schools canceled after-school programs. Children were afraid to ride their bikes, and even walking home felt dangerous. But through all this panic, the police stayed silent. They refused to share details. Days went by with no official updates. And when there's silence, people fill it with fear. Then, on April 26th, 2 days after Lily's body was found, something strange happened. Police cars surrounded the home of Lily's aunt. Officers went inside with a search warrant. Neighbors stood on their lawns, whispering in shock. Why were they there? Could one of Lily's own relatives be involved? The entire town froze, waiting for answers. By evening, they got one, and it shattered whatever calm was left. At a press conference, Police Chief Matthew Kelm stepped up to the microphones. His voice was low, heavy. He announced that a suspect had been arrested for the brutal murder of 10-year-old Lily Peters. But when reporters demanded to know who it was, the chief refused to say. The suspect was a minor. He could not be named by law. Still, in a small town where everyone knows everyone, secrets don't last long. And soon, the unthinkable truth spread through Chippewa Falls. The person arrested for Lily's murder was her own cousin, a 14-year-old boy named Carson Peters Berger, the son of Lily's aunt. The news hit the town like a storm. People who had hugged this boy at the vigil, who had cried beside him for Lily, now couldn't believe what they were hearing. But as police revealed how they found him, the horror only deepened. The trail that led detectives to Carson began with a single anonymous tip posted online. Someone on Reddit had written that they saw a girl on a bike matching Lily's description the night she went missing. She wasn't alone. A boy slightly older was walking beside her. When the murder was announced, the writer immediately suspected that the boy might be involved, and another user forwarded the post to police. Then came a second tip, this one from inside the family. Carson's grandmother called investigators and told them something deeply disturbing. Her grandson had confessed. He told his younger sister with a chilling smile that he was the one who killed Lily. That was all the police needed. They rushed to the aunt's house and brought Carson in for questioning. At first, the boy was quiet, emotionless, but then without much pressure, he confessed to everything. And what he said left even the most experienced detectives sick to their stomachs. That evening, Carson told Lily they should take a walk to the park. He said he wanted to show her something about plants and trees, something science-related. Lily trusted him. He was family. They rode their bikes down the familiar road and turned onto the park path, the one that curved through the thick trees, away from houses and people. Once they were far enough inside, Carson suddenly hit Lily in the stomach. The little girl fell to the ground, gasping for air. He then picked up a large branch and hit her 3 times on the head. When she collapsed, struggling to breathe, he put his hands around her neck and squeezed until she stopped moving. Even after killing her, he didn't stop. He pulled down her clothes and assaulted her body. Then he bit her on her lower body, leaving marks that would later match his teeth. When it was over, Carson ran home, washed the blood off his body, and scrubbed his clothes clean. He took a shower, got dressed again, and sat quietly in his room. A few hours later, when the town began searching for Lily, Carson quietly slipped out of his house and went back to the park. There, he covered her small body with branches and leaves, hiding her from sight, and then he returned home again. When family members began crying, calling Lily's name, and organizing the search, Carson joined them. He acted confused, worried, and innocent, even comforting Lily's father. That night, he hugged the very people whose hearts he had destroyed. During the police interview, Carson told investigators something even more chilling. He had planned it. It wasn't a moment of anger. It wasn't an accident. He had decided to kill Lily before they even left the house. Detectives listened in silence. Everything he said matched the evidence perfectly, details only the killer could have known. He described the same wounds, the same location, the same bite mark that the forensic team had just discovered. Later, DNA tests confirmed it. The biological evidence found on Lily's body belonged to Carson. There was no doubt left. This 14-year-old boy had murdered and violated his own cousin. The district attorney wasted no time. Carson Peters Berger was charged with intentional homicide. Because of the cruelty of the crime, prosecutors made a rare decision. He would be tried as an adult. They argued that the attack had been planned, deliberate, and unimaginably cruel. Lily had been small, defenseless, and trusting. No one in that courtroom disagreed. At his first hearing, Carson stood before the judge, wearing a loose gray sweatshirt and staring at the floor. His bail was set at $1 million, money his family could never pay. He would stay behind bars until his trial. In the days that followed, reporters from across the country flooded Chippewa Falls. The murder of Lily Peters and the shocking identity of her killer became national news. Some people in town begged others not to judge the family. Others couldn't believe what they were hearing, that the boy they'd known for years could do something so monstrous. Carson's grandmother tried everything to save him from being tried as an adult. In her letter to the judge, she described him as a kind, gentle boy who had made a terrible mistake, but the court didn't see it that way. The evidence was too strong, the crime too cruel. Lily's family was destroyed. They had lost their daughter, and the person responsible was another child they loved. They could hardly understand it. Just days before, Carson had stood beside them at Lily's memorial, holding their hands, crying fake tears, and then, only hours later, he had told his little sister that he was the one who did it. He even smiled when he said it. As journalists dug deeper into the family's background, disturbing details began to surface about Carson's father, Adam Berger. Years earlier, in 2016, Adam had been arrested for possessing illegal images involving minors. When police searched his devices, they found several photos and explicit writings describing twisted fantasies. In 2018, Adam was sentenced to 3 years in prison. After his release, he moved to a nearby town, close enough to see Carson again. According to relatives, that arrest and everything that followed had changed Carson completely. Before, he had been friendly and bright, a normal kid, but after his father's arrest, he became withdrawn and angry. He avoided people, kept to himself, and often lashed out in frustration. He especially resented his mother. He blamed her for what had happened to his dad. Family members said he would sometimes shout at her, accusing her of ruining everything. Little by little, his behavior grew darker. He spent more time online, more time alone. No one realized what was happening inside him, the darkness building, the hatred growing, until it was too late. Lily's death had exposed something far worse than anyone could imagine. Not just the horror of one night, but the failure to see the signs that led to it. A family torn apart, a community left in pieces, and a question that would haunt everyone who knew them. How could a child do something like this? While Adam was behind bars, he tried everything he could to stay close to his son. He wanted permission to meet Carson without the mother's supervision, but the court refused. Carson's mother was completely against it. This rejection filled Carson with even more anger toward her. In his young mind, she was the reason his father was gone, the reason his family had been torn apart. But Adam didn't give up. From prison, he began writing to his son almost every day through electronic messages. And when Carson stayed with his grandmother, she would let him speak with his father for hours on the phone. She later said those calls were the only times she saw Carson truly happy. His voice would lighten, his laughter would come back. For a little while he sounded like the boy he used to be, before everything fell apart. But life with his mother was far from peaceful. Reporters later discovered that Carson's mother had her own troubles with the law. She'd been charged before for possessing illegal substances, and even for attacking a former partner. After her divorce from Adam, she moved in with a man named John Repetto, someone who also had a criminal record, this time for fraud. And when people looked at John's social media, it was like staring into a dark world. His posts were full of disturbing things, quotes that praised serial killers, memes that mocked children, even threats about hurting people. It was hard to imagine how someone like that could be helping raise a child who was already broken inside. Together, Carson's mother and stepfather created an environment filled with chaos, anger, and darkness. For a boy who desperately needed healing, it was the worst place to grow up. Then came a strange twist in the case, something nobody saw coming. Months after Carson's arrest, while the lawyers were preparing for trial, a video suddenly appeared on YouTube. It claimed to show leaked police evidence, recordings, official documents, even footage from the crime scene. Carson's defense lawyer immediately complained. He said these materials were confidential and that whoever leaked them had committed a serious crime. The video gained almost 1 million views in just days. What shocked everyone was that even Carson's own lawyer admitted that he himself didn't have access to some of the documents shown in that video. It made no sense. Who had shared them? If real, the leak could have affected the entire trial. Some charges could even be dropped because of it. The judge ordered a full investigation, but when they finally traced the video, the truth turned out to be far less dramatic. It wasn't a real leak at all, just an amateur true crime video, edited together from public news clips and articles. Nothing secret, nothing confidential. The complaint was withdrawn, but the damage was done. People began whispering, was this just a tactic by the defense to delay the case, or to confuse the process? And another question lingered. Where did Carson's family get the money to hire such a powerful lawyer? Their financial records showed they could barely afford basic expenses. No one could explain who was paying the bills. By August 2023, more than a year after Lily's death, a major hearing was finally scheduled. The judge would decide whether Carson should be tried as an adult or as a juvenile. Carson appeared only by video from the detention center. Cameras weren't allowed to show his face. The court documents identified him only by initials, CTPB, and gave him the pseudonym Christopher. This decision would change everything. If the court decided to move his case to juvenile court, Christopher would likely spend only a few years locked up. Juvenile systems focus on therapy and rehabilitation, not long punishment. But 2 of his charges were among the most serious crimes in Wisconsin: first-degree intentional homicide and first-degree sexual assault of a child under 13. Each of these could mean life in prison if he were tried as an adult. Lily's family pleaded with the judge. They wanted the full weight of justice. They believed someone who could plan and carry out such a brutal act didn't deserve a second chance. Most people agreed. A teenager who had calmly murdered a child and then bragged about it was not someone who could be trusted to change. He was dangerous. Finally, in September 2024, the Wisconsin Court of Appeals made its ruling. Carson, known publicly as Christopher, would be tried as an adult. The judges stated that the seriousness of his crime could not be minimized just because of his age. In March 2025, his defense team made another move. They asked to change the trial's location, arguing that it was impossible to find unbiased jurors in Chippewa County. The entire community had mourned Lily. Everyone had taken her side. Her pictures and purple memorial benches stood near the courthouse. In August 2025, Judge Stephen Gibbs agreed, but only partially. He ruled that the trial would remain in Wisconsin, but jurors would be chosen from a different county. The court then set the trial date for November 2nd, 2026. By then, more than 3 years would have passed since the night Lily Peters was killed. Her parents still carry pain. That time cannot heal. The Peters family didn't just lose their daughter, they also lost their nephew, a boy they once loved and welcomed into their home. The betrayal ran deep. It was a wound that would never close. In the quiet town of Chippewa Falls, life has never gone back to normal. Parents watch their children more closely. The sound of a bike on the street brings back painful memories. The trust that once filled this community was shattered. Local mothers who never even knew Lily raised money to honor her. They placed purple benches, her favorite color, in the places she loved most. Outside her church, near the ice cream shop, and by her gymnastics studio. Each one carries her name. Each one reminds people of the innocent little girl who never made it home that night. In November 2026, the court will finally deliver its verdict. But for Lily Peters, time stopped long ago. On April 24th, 2022, she was only 10 years old. She loved her bike, her friends, her small town. She had dreams to grow up, to graduate, to live a full life. Instead, her story ended in the woods, just minutes away from home. Lily Peters will always be remembered, not only as a victim, but as a reminder of how fragile childhood can be, and how even the people we trust most can hide unimaginable darkness. Rest in peace, sweet Lily. You deserve the world.